Some things just look right. A face that seems effortlessly beautiful. A painting that feels balanced. A building that stands out but still feels natural. It's not luck. It's not magic. Some believe it all comes down to a single number, 1.618. This number has been talked about for centuries. It's been linked to famous art, legendary architecture, and even the structure of the human body. But does it really shape what we see as beautiful? Or are we just looking for patterns that aren't there? Let's start with faces. Some of the world's most admired faces, whether in paintings or real life, are said to follow this ratio. The space between the eyes, the length of the nose, the width of the lips. If these measurements align in a certain way, the result feels balanced. Studies even suggest that when people are shown two versions of a face, one adjusted to fit the ratio and one left untouched, many pick the first as more attractive. But here's the twist. The human brain doesn't actually measure. It doesn't take out a ruler and check proportions. It reacts. And what it reacts to isn't always a perfect calculation. It's patterns, familiarity, and symmetry. The golden ratio appears in some faces, sure, but not all. Yet people still find beauty in faces that don't fit the formula at all. So, is the number truly behind it, or does it just happen to show up sometimes? Now, what about paintings? Take Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, one of the most famous faces ever. Painted, some claim her features match the golden ratio, that the structure of her face, even the framing of the portrait, follows this hidden rule. Others say it's all coincidence, that Da Vinci never planned it that way. The same debate surrounds The Last Supper, The Birth of Venus, and even modern graphic design. Some believe the ratio is a built-in guide for making things visually appealing. Others think people are just drawing lines where they don't belong. And then there's architecture, the Parthenon, the Great Pyramids, even some modern skyscrapers. Many claim these structures were built using the ratio. The argument? This number creates harmony. A structure feels right because it follows a proportion we subconsciously recognize. But here's where things get interesting. Blueprints don't always match the math. While some elements may be close, architects rarely use 1.618 intentionally. The ratio can appear, but that doesn't mean it was always meant to. So what's really happening? Maybe the reason we think this ratio is everywhere is because we want to see it. The human brain is wired to recognize patterns, even when they don't exist. When we learn about something like this, we start noticing it, finding it in paintings, measuring faces, sketching spirals over famous landmarks. But just because we find it after the fact, does that mean it was part of the design? Or are we giving it meaning after something already feels right? This is where things get tricky. The ratio does appear in nature. It shows up in the spirals of shells, the branching of trees, even the way galaxies form. But nature isn't following a rule. It's growing in ways that just happen to land close to this number. And the same could be true for beauty. Maybe we don't love something because of the golden ratio. Maybe we love it first and then find the math later. So, is 1.618 the key to beauty? It plays a role, but it's not the full story. Faces, paintings, and buildings don't need it to feel perfect. Sometimes, balance comes from something else. Something less about numbers and more about how we experience the world. But what do you think? Is the golden ratio shaping what we see as beautiful, or are we just searching for patterns that aren't really there? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this interesting, there's plenty more where that came from.